The story begins with a young boy playing in the forest. He notices a bright golden light and goes to investigate. From the light, a girl and an old man emerge. The girl asks the boy for his name, and he introduces himself as Sato. She introduces herself as Hime Nanoka and requests that Sato keep what he saw a secret. Hime suggests that it's best to forget about it, but in return, she promises to be his friend. Sato feels a strong urge to protect her and decides to keep that thought with him forever. 10 years pass, and Hime wakes up Sato. She has prepared breakfast for him, and Sato is impressed by the luxurious meal. Hime mentions that it's the start of summer break, and she woke up early without realizing it. Sato recalls that Hime Nanoka is his childhood friend, and she moved into the house next door a decade ago. She lives with her grandfather since she doesn't have parents. Sato notices that Hime has changed a lot since starting high school, particularly her physical appearance, and he playfully teases her about it. Hime explains that deliberately keeping a low profile would only draw more attention to her unique hair, and she believes that, as a princess, it's essential for her to be strong. Sato recalls that Hime has been referring to herself as a princess since childhood, and she playfully gets close to him, making him feel embarrassed. However, all she does is pick a grain of rice from around his mouth and eat it, easing his embarrassment. The scene transitions to the two of them leaving for school, where they greet Hime's grandfather before heading out. On the way, Hime inquires if Sato's father is still not home, and he explains that his father won't return until after summer break. Hime expresses sympathy, but Sato assures her that he's used to it. Sato also notices the rings on Hime's neck, which remind him of the promise they made as children. In their childhood, Hime had told him that these rings were meant for the man she would marry someday, and she asked Sato to marry her when they grew up. However, now she playfully tells him she won't give them to him because they're important to her. Sato thinks to himself that childhood promises shouldn't be taken seriously, and the scene shifts to their arrival at school. Hime proudly shows off her test scores to her friends, who praise her for her intelligence. Hime mentions that, as a princess, it's her duty to be smart, prompting her friends to wonder which country's princess she represents. Meanwhile, Sato talks with some of his friends, and one of them comments on how great it must be to have a girlfriend, noting that Sato comes to school with Hime every day. Sato explains that they walk together because she lives next door. As he's chatting with his friends, Sato receives a message from Hime inviting him to the summer festival. She instructs him to meet her in front of the shrine at 6 in the evening. Sato is curious why she's sending him a message, but he believes it's okay to be hopeful. Later, Sato meets Hime at a shrine and is surprised by her yukata outfit. Hime playfully asks if he's captivated by her appearance, and Sato admits he is, which makes Hime blush. They both enjoy the festival together. Hime expresses her excitement for festivals and recalls a childhood memory of getting lost in one. Sato had held her hand to keep them from getting separated, and Hime thought he was cool back then. Sato wonders if he's still cool now, and Hime playfully says she doesn't know, suggesting they get some food. Hime buys Choco banana, and at a shooting stall, she asks Sato to win a stuffed toy for her. Sato hesitates, worried about their relationship, but he also doesn't want things to stay the same. He wins the toy for her, and they watch fireworks at the shrine. Sato tries to confess his feelings during the fireworks, but he's interrupted, and Hime mentions that the fireworks are beautiful. She expresses her gratitude for watching them together. Suddenly, she reveals a secret. She's decided to move. Sato is surprised and asks when she's leaving. She tells him she's leaving for her grandfather's hometown the next day. They return to their apartment building, and Hime thanks Sato for the wonderful night watching the fireworks. Sato asks if she really has to leave, but Hime ignores him, saying he gave her a memorable night. In bed, Sato wonders where Hime is going, realizing he thought he knew everything about her but actually knew nothing. Sato notices a golden light coming from the mountains, reminding him of the day he first met Hime. He goes to the source and finds Hime there. He asks her not to go, and Hime is surprised that Sato remembers their first meeting. She admits she lied about moving away and is leaving for a different world. She reveals she's going to get married as she's a princess. She bids farewell to Sato, who decides he won't just watch her leave. He steps into the golden light, waking up in a palace where he witnesses Hime marrying a prince. Wedding attendees are surprised to see Sato, and the priest asks Hime to perform the sacred kiss. Sato calls out to Hime, and the prince questions who he is. A monster then enters the palace, known as an abyssal creature. Hime's grandfather, Alabaster, tries to fight it but is distracted by seeing Sato in this world, leading to the monster defeating him. Alabaster, Hime's grandfather, asks Hime to give the Ring of Light to the prince. Still, Hime notices that Sato is in danger and kisses him instead. She gives him her ring, and the prince believes Princess Crystal has made her decision. He hands Sato a sword, leaving Sato confused about what to do with it. The monster approaches him, and the sword and ring start to glow. Sato slashes the monster in one strike, then faints. When he wakes up in bed, he asks Haim where he is. Haim informs him they're in the royal couple's bedchamber, and she explains they shared the kiss of the oath. Sato wonders if this means Haim loves him. Haim reveals she was supposed to marry the prince, but knew nothing about him, so she chose Sato when she saw a familiar face. Sato can't believe this is why Haim chose him, and Haim apologizes for making him her hero. Later, maids discuss the Ring King, who came from another world and defeated an abyssal creature with a single strike. Later, Sato meets with some important people in the palace. They whisper about how the wedding was supposed to make the relationship between the Empire and the Kingdom of Light stronger. They worry that when the king finds out, he'll be very angry. The prince, however, explains that the man chosen by the Ring Princess is the Ring King, the savior of the world. Both he and Sato are just following their destiny to save the world, regardless of what the king thinks. People in the room gossip about how the second prince is very proud of himself. Alabaster, Haim's grandfather, clarifies that he brought the Ring King here because they wanted to meet him. He introduces Sato to the entire kingdom, and Sato feels nervous being in the spotlight. Alabaster asks Sato to say something, and Sato notices the cheering crowd. Alabaster tells Sato that everyone has been waiting for the Ring King, and he represents hope for their world. Encouraged by the support, Sato proclaims himself as the Ring King, someone who has come from another world to save them all, their hero. The scene shifts to Sato taking a bath, where he reflects on his earlier words. Unexpectedly, Haim joins him in the bath. She explains that they are officially married, and she asks Sato not to look at her. They bathe together, and Haim apologizes for causing trouble for Sato. She acknowledges that he was never meant to be a part of this situation, but Sato reassures her that he's willing to stay. Sato explains that the monster from yesterday was after her, and the ring she carried. Since he's the only one who can save her, he won't leave her side. Haim recalls how when she first started school, everyone avoided her because of her unusual hair color, but Sato was different. He came to her rescue, and she thanks him. Sato, with a mischievous glance, attempts to sneak a peek at Haim's chest, but she covers herself and says that royal family weddings are merely formality. She insists that she only made him her husband by accident, and he shouldn't feel responsible. Sato agrees but expresses his happiness at being chosen by Haim. She asks if he likes her a lot, and he confirms it, calling her his most important friend. They hear bells ringing outside and wonder what's happening. Rushing to the palace gate, they discover that soldiers are speculating about their activities in the bedroom. Haim clarifies that they haven't been intimate yet. The soldiers inform them that they are under attack by abyssal creature and that the monster Sato defeated earlier was likely a scout. They request Sato's assistance, despite his lack of combat experience. Haim interjects, expressing concern for Sato's safety. Alabaster reminds them that Sato must fight since he possesses the ring. They equip Sato with an axe and explain that the Ring of Light is a powerful weapon against the abyss, capable of banishing evil. Although Sato is unsure about the world's situation, he is determined to save Haim's life and agrees to help. Before Sato leaves, Haim kisses him and asks him to vanquish the evil creatures and save their world from turmoil. We then see a maid in the castle is under attack by an abyssal creature, but Sato bravely comes to her rescue. He tells the maid to get to a safe place, and thinks about how he has already defeated 3 monsters, though his power weakened quickly in his previous battle. Alabaster explains that the power in Sato's ring comes from the bond with the princess, Haim, and her kiss. Alabaster tells Sato that part of Haim's duty is to support the Ring King in battle. However, sustaining this power will be difficult for Sato. Alabaster reassures him that he will help. Sato asks Alabaster if he is as powerful as others say, referring to him as a great sage. Alabaster confirms he is. Just then a powerful enemy leader, the Knight of the Abyss King, appears. Sato tries to fight the knight but is quickly defeated and his weapon is destroyed. He's surprised to find he's still alive and wonders if the ring's power protected him. Alabaster tells Sato to run, and they head back into the castle, but 2 abyssal creatures chase them. Sato struggles to even get close to the knight, and Alabaster explains the knight is a fearsome monster with powerful magic. Sato wonders if they can fight the knight using the ring's power, but Alabaster tells him they need to focus on escaping and uses his magic to stop the creatures chasing them. As they try to escape again, they are blocked by the knight. Suddenly, the prince from earlier attacks the knight and tells them he has prepared a carriage for their escape. Sato is concerned about Haim being left in the castle, but the prince reassures him. They escape in the carriage, where Haim is relieved to see Sato safe. The prince explains that the monsters have captured the southern tower, so he took action to save Haim. Sato asks for the prince's name, and he introduces himself as Marmaruji, the second prince of the Jazara Empire. Sato finds his name difficult to pronounce, so the prince suggests Sato call him Marsh. Sato asks Alabaster if Kingdom will be okay, and Alabaster explains that currently, the Abyss King is focusing on chasing the Ring King and his ring. Once the monsters learn they've left the castle, they'll start searching for them, but hopefully, there won't be more casualties. Alabaster admits it's nearly impossible to defeat the Knight of the Abyss King without the power of light, leading Sato to feel he must be the one to conquer him. Alabaster clarifies they're fleeing because Sato's Ring King powers are weak. For him to fully harness his power, he must collect the other 4 rings. Sato realizes this means marrying 4 more girls, and Alabaster confirms his next mission is to wed the other 4 princesses and obtain their rings. Sato objects to polygamy, but Alabaster frames it as an exciting adventure and a man's dream. Meanwhile, Haim struggles to hide her discomfort with this plan. The scene shifts to the group at an inn with only 2 rooms available. Alabaster suggests he should stay with the princess for her safety, but Haim disagrees. The prince suggests she shares a room with her husband, Sato. Later, during a meeting, Alabaster briefs Sato on the true role of the Ring King. Long ago, the Abyss King aimed to dominate the world with dark power, unleashing countless monsters and causing nations to fall. The Ring King, wielding rings of light, fire, water, wind, and earth, sealed the Abyss King away after a prolonged battle. The rings, infused with his magical power, were given to his 5 wives and returned to their countries. These rings, passed down through generations, symbolize the bond between the princesses and the Ring King. Now, with the Abyss King's resurrection and his quest for power, it falls upon the Ring King to seal him away again. To do this, Sato must marry the 5 princesses and gather the 5 rings. In his room, Sato is deep in thought when Haim tells him not to overthink their marriage, calling it a sham. Suddenly, Sato feels pain and wonders if he was injured in the recent battle. Concerned, Haim asks Sato to remove his shirt, and upon doing so, she discovers several wounds on his back. Blaming herself for choosing him as the Ring King, Haim runs away in tears. Worried, Sato goes looking for Haim and encounters Mars. He asks if Mars has seen Haim, and Mars confirms she just ran past him. Mars sympathizes with the heavy burden of being the Ring King, but Sato insists it's not overwhelming. Mars thanks Sato for taking on the Ring King role, freeing him from that duty. He observes that Haim must be special to Sato, given his journey from his world to follow her. Mars encourages Sato, saying pursuing love is not easy and should be a source of pride. Apologizing for the delay, Mars directs Sato to the backyard where Haim might be. Sato rushes off, leaving Mars admiring his courage. In the backyard, Sato finds Haim and confesses his feelings for her, clarifying it's more than friendship. He reassures her that he's here by choice, and she shouldn't feel guilty. Haim admits her worries, explaining she was prepared to forget her previous life as Haim Nanoka to fulfill her role as the Princess of Light. Ready to marry a stranger for the world's fate, her resolve wavered when Sato, the man she loves, entered this world. She knows her husband, the Ring King, faces battles and must marry other princesses, but she struggles with these realities. Sato apologizes, and Haim decides to stop worrying. She resolves to be Sato's real wife and support him as the Ring King. She asks Sato if he'll accept her as his wife, and Sato agrees. In their room, Sato and Haim find themselves in an awkward situation following their recent commitment. They're unsure of their next steps now that Haim is officially Sato's wife. Sato impulsively moves closer to her but then hesitates, feeling that something isn't right. He notices Haim is trembling and decides to stop, telling her they shouldn't rush into things. Sato expresses his desire for their first intimate moment to be more meaningful, having waited 10 years for this. He suggests they take their time as a married couple, leading to a shared kiss. The next morning, Alabaster asks them how they slept. Haim says she slept well but internally says that she couldn't sleep at all. Alabaster is disappointed to hear that they didn't take their relationship further despite the romantic atmosphere. Sato and Haim are shocked to learn Alabaster was watching them. Alabaster reassures them that strengthening their bond is crucial, as it powers the Ring King. Mars arrives, bringing Sato and Haim cloaks to blend into their surroundings. Alabaster then announces their next destination is the Elf Country, known as Lanka of the Wind, where the Ring of Wind, an elven heirloom, is located. He teases Sato about the elf's renowned beauty, but Haim reminds him that she is Sato's true wife. Elsewhere, in Lanka, the elven princess expresses her disdain for the Ring King. Alabaster recounts that Lanka, a hub of knowledge, was once a sacred place. However, 50 years ago, a gust barrier appeared around it, changing the nation. Alabaster recalls visiting Lanka before the barrier existed. As Sato and the group approach the barrier, a bear-like creature attacks them. With no escape route due to the barrier, they find themselves running from the wild animal. Sato hears a voice guiding them to safety, leading him and the others into a tree. The barrier then sweeps the bear away. They meet the owners of the voices and realize they are elves. Alabaster thanks the elves for their help and starts explaining their situation, but Sato interrupts, revealing he is the Ring King in search of their princess. Haim quietly scolds him, noting that not all nations with rings are eager to join their cause. The elves agree to escort them to the palace but warn that things might not go as expected. The elves explain they must travel through the roots of a giant tree to reach Lanka, admitting the narrow path is inconvenient but keeps large beasts out of the city. Once in the city, they are taken to the throne room, where they find the throne empty. Haim then spots the princess hiding behind the throne. Sato introduces himself as the Ring King from another world to the princess. She inquires if Sato is married and have they already done it. Haim is shocked by the princess's blunt question, but the princess clarifies she's referring to a kiss. Sato confirms he has kissed, prompting Haim to assert that Sato already possesses the Ring of Light. She urges the elven princess to follow tradition and grants Sato her ring to help defeat the Abyss King. The elven princess, finding the idea of kissing too gross, runs away, leaving Sato surprised by her reaction. Prince Jade Ranko arrives and comments on his sister's reclusive nature, hinting at the difficulty of obtaining a ring from her. When Sato identifies himself as the rumored new Ring King, Jade summons his guards, who then detain Sato, while assuring that his companions will be treated well. Jade explains his actions by emphasizing his sister Nephrite's delicate sensibilities, defending her as innocent and kind, despite her shy and childlike behavior. Jade reveals his overprotectiveness, explaining that Nephrite has never left the royal palace and is unaccustomed to strangers. Despite being 54 years old, Jade considers her too young for marriage and sees it as his duty to protect and care for her. He then informs Sato that he will be detained for the next 80 years, until Nephrite matures, leaving Sato locked up as he departs. After Jade decides to imprison Sato, an elf questions his decision, but Jade confidently states that their impenetrable wind barrier, powered by the Ring of Wind, keeps them safe from any threats, including the Abyss King. Their priority is to safeguard this ring, ensuring their country's protection. 3 days have passed since Sato's confinement, and he despairs at his situation until an elven woman visits him, inquiring about his intentions with the 5 rings. Sato expresses his simple desire to please Haim, which the woman finds admirably odd. She introduces herself as someone committed to her nation's future and criticizes Jade's decision to imprison Sato, who could be pivotal in opposing the Abyss King. Contrary to preserving the barrier for protection, she views it as a restraint on their people. She leads Sato through a secret passage to where the Ring of Wind is kept, revealing it placed in the hands of statues, which Sato assumes to represent the princess's parents. However, their visit is interrupted by Princess Nephrite, who prays to the statues, expressing her determination not to be taken away, and to uphold her mother's wishes to protect their peace. The elven woman explains to Sato that the statues are not mere representations, but the petrified forms of the former elven king and queen. They've become stone guardians, their lives sacrificed to maintain the barrier through the ring's power. Sato is shocked to learn the true guardians of the ring are Nephrite's petrified parents, symbolizing the heavy burden and legacy of protection that the royal family bears. Nephritis overhears a noise, and, suspecting someone's presence, asks them to reveal themselves. Sato, trying to avoid detection, steps out, causing Nephritis to scream and faint. Sato catches her to prevent her from hitting the ground. A soldier, alerted by the scream, rushes to investigate, but Sato and the woman quickly depart with the unconscious princess. As they escape, Sato inquires about their destination. The woman, revealing herself as an elder familiar with the palace, assures him of her knowledge of the area. Meanwhile, Jade discovers Nephritis is missing and begins a frantic search throughout the palace. Sato reflects on the elder's words about Nephritis's resilience despite her sheltered life. The elder entrusts Sato with the mission to obtain Nephritis's ring before leaving them alone. When Nephritis regains consciousness, she's startled to find herself with Sato, who reassures her of his harmless intentions, but she reacts with hostility. Jade learns of Sato's escape and suspects him of abducting Nephritis. The elder confirms Jade's suspicion and suggests that Sato and Nephritis have eloped, a notion that baffles Jade given Nephritis's timid nature. The elder challenges Jade to accept the reality that Nephritis might no longer express love for him, causing Jade to panic. She emphasizes that Nephritis's destiny is to inherit the Ring of Wind, criticizing Jade's overprotectiveness as contrary to Nephritis's interest. Despite Jade's insistence that the ring's current guardians, their petrified parents, adequately protect the nation, he vows to search the elder's residence. Back at the elder's residence, Sato, having washed their clothes, receives an apology from Nephritis for the inconvenience. This simple interaction underscores the burgeoning understanding and dynamics between Sato, the the princess and the elder amidst the unfolding events surrounding the Ring of Wind and the protective barrier. Sato reassures the princess that washing their clothes was no trouble, especially after her unfortunate incident. Nephrite admits she's always been afraid of outsiders due to her sheltered upbringing within the palace walls. Learning that Sato hails from another world, she's intrigued but apprehensive, fearing the unknown. Sato explains his world is peaceful and devoid of monsters, sparking Nephrite's curiosity about whether elves exist there. When Sato confirms there are no elves in his world, Nephrite expresses a mixture of disappointment and fascination. Despite her sheltered life, she's curious about the world beyond the palace but is hesitant to confront the reality of it, finding solace in books and her imagination. Sato finds a common ground between them, revealing his journey to this world wasn't driven by special powers but by his desire to be with someone he loves. He encourages Nephrite, suggesting that despite challenges, there's always a way to explore and experience more. Excited by the prospect, Nephrite expresses a wish to see Sato's world, to which Sato agrees, gently reminding her to dress appropriately. Their conversation takes a turn when Jade and others arrive, demanding Nephrite's presence. The moment highlights Nephrite's internal conflict between her curiosity for the outside world and the constraints of her royal life, setting the stage for a decision that could change her life forever. Sato explains to Nephrite that he pursued the role of Ring King solely to be with his beloved Haim, with his current quest being to gather all the rings. He emphasizes that he doesn't want to coerce Nephrite into marriage. The choice is hers. Nephrite, determined, believes her brother will eventually come around to understanding her decision. When they confront Jade, Nephrite, initially shielded by Sato, steps forward to defend Sato's character against Jade's accusations. She argues that despite the ring's current guardianship by their parents, it's inevitable that she'll one day inherit it, acknowledging she can't always rely on Jade's protection. This defiance angers Jade, who accuses her of betrayal, leading Nephrite to reluctantly side with him. Jade then publicly accuses Sato of not only escaping confinement but also kidnapping Nephrite, vowing consequences. The elder intervenes, claiming responsibility for the situation, countering Jade's actions towards Sato as equally questionable. She promises to monitor Sato, to which Jade consents, albeit with the stipulation that Sato and Nephrite must not meet again. In a later conversation with Haim, she expresses concern for Sato's well-being. Sato assures her of his safety, but Haim notes the apparent bond formed between Sato and Nephrite during the ordeal. Sato questions Haim about possibly being jealous of his interaction with Nephrite, to which Haim playfully asks if that's wrong. Sato reassures there's nothing wrong, just as Elder Peridot, Lachma's oldest elf, arrives and introduces herself to Haim. Sato inquires about Nephrite's behavior and its relation to her parents. Peridot shares Lachma's history, explaining the barrier, and Nephrite's demeanor stem from a past event. Nephrite's mother wasn't the first choice for the throne due to her sister, who fell in love with a human traveler. This relationship caused uproar among the elves, fearing the outsider might take the Ring of Wind or had ill intention. Rumors and paranoia escalated, but the princess's love persisted until the traveler's mysterious departure, whether expelled or worse. Sato is shocked by the extreme measures taken over the rings. Alabaster adds context, stating the rings symbolize power and national pride since ancient times, coveted by those without. Peridot reveals the elder sister cursed Lachma upon leaving, predicting its downfall and the end of the ring's lineage. Such curses weigh heavily on elves, given their longevity, casting a shadow of fear over the populace and royal family alike, illustrating the depth of historical wounds within Lachma. After the older sister's departure, Nephrite's parents took charge of the Ring of Wind. To protect Lanka from the curse and outsiders, they created a wind barrier, sacrificing themselves to become stone guardians. Before their transformation, they made Nephrite promise never to leave the barrier's safety, effectively imprisoning the nation and herself. Nephrite recalls the solemn vow she made to her parents. Her mother, in her final moments before becoming stone, urged Nephrite to stay within the nation's bounds, assuring her protection until a destined time. This memory brings Nephrite to tears, as she's reminded of the heavy responsibility and isolation her promise entails. The scene changes, and Alabaster informs Sato that they have to give up on the Ring of Wind for now. He emphasizes that while they delay, the Abyss King's army might be approaching, and they can't stay in one place forever. Alabaster clarifies that they're not abandoning the ring completely, it's just not their top priority at the moment. He stresses the importance of collecting as many rings as possible. Alabaster points out that Sato isn't currently a match for the Knight of the Abyss King. Although Sato understands Alabaster's concerns, he hesitates. Haim questions if Sato's hesitation is due to his concern for Nephrite. Sato admits that he is worried about her and feels responsible for disrupting her peaceful life. Jade notices them leaving, thinking it's a good idea, as the Ring King's story is more of a myth, uncertain even to seemingly immortal elves. Jade believes his duty is to protect the city's people. Suddenly, they learn that abyssal creatures have breached the wind barrier. A powerful monster has torn through, sending monsters into the city. Jade is shocked that the barrier created by his parents has been broken, and more monsters wait outside to attack. Sato and the others attempt to leave the city but notice the abyssal creatures entering. They decide to turn back and defend the ring. To enhance Sato's power, Haim kisses him, and chaos ensues in the city as abyssal creatures wreak havoc. The Elder informs Nephrites about the breach and asks if she plans to stay put. Nephrites, committed to her promise to her mother, wants to stay and keep a low profile. The Elder suggests that an elf who sacrifices their desires to live isn't truly alive. Later, the Knight of the Abyss King attempts to steal the Ring of Wind. Jade, anticipating her move, confronts her. Knowing the Knight's plan to use the ring to bring the army inside, Jade attacks her. However, the Knight, revealing powerful magic, easily counters Jade. Recognizing her as the Knight who attacked Nakanatica, Jade realizes he can't back down and must protect his parents' legacy. The Knight attempts to attack him with wind, but Alabaster intervenes, saving Jade with a spell. Jade is puzzled about the Ring King's presence, and Sato expresses uncertainty about saving Jade. However, he emphasizes that Nephrites considers this place home, and today, he is determined to defeat the Knight. Because he have received power from his wife, he attempts to attack the Knight, but she easily blows him away. Jade informs Sato that she can nullify all magic attacks, leaving no hope for victory. Haim tends to Sato, noting that he is aware of the Knight's strength but still wants to protect them. Jade, getting back on his feet, declares his commitment to keeping his sister safe and freeing her from the fate of the rings. Meanwhile, Sato struggles to get close to the Knight, and Alabaster thinks the situation is worse than expected. Sato questions his own strength, wondering why he can't overcome the Knight. Haim speculates whether her hesitation during their earlier kiss affected Sato. She admits to feeling jealous of Nephrites, and believes she can't assist Sato on her own. Haim then approaches Nephrites, catching the attention of the Elder. Meanwhile, Alabaster suggests to Sato that they should retreat, but Sato refuses, explaining that the creature is after the Ring of Wind. The Elder arrives and informs Sato that the Princess of Light has gone to find Nephrites. Confused, Sato questions why she would do this. Peridot, joining others to buy time, mentions that the princess is doing it for him and praises Sato's remarkable life. In another scene, Haim approaches Nephrites and proposes that she marry Sato. Haim shares her own feelings of uselessness, having lost her parents protecting the ring, while acknowledging the heavy burden Nephrites carries. Nephrites, however, insists that her parents sacrificed themselves to cast the wind barrier so that she wouldn't have to inherit the ring. She cannot betray their sacrifice. Haim argues that they are different, pointing out that she is not helpless. She emphasizes that her brother and the Elder are currently fighting the Knight of the Abyss King, even though they stand little chance. But Nephritis says that it is their responsibility as ring bearers. Haim tells Nephrites that Sato is putting his life at risk to protect their home. Even though he may not seem like it, he's a really considerate person who won't give up. There's a chance he might even get killed, and she feels helpless not being able to do anything on her own. So, she requests Nephrites to marry Sato and save him. Nephrites opens the door to her room, pondering if she can truly make a difference. The scene then shifts to Sato and others engaged in a battle with the Knight. Haim and Nephrites join the fight with a hammer. Jade questions Nephrites' presence, and she replies that he can scold her later. The two princesses break statues of the Elven King and Queen, deactivating the barriers around Lamka. Nephrites hands the Ring of Wind to Sato, kisses him. Sato looked at the ring and Jade worries about an incoming horde of abyssal creatures without the barrier. However, Nephrites calms him, and Sato, using the power of the rings, emits a light that eliminates all monsters in Lamka. While this weakens the Knight of the Abyss King, Sato attempts to attack the Knight, who counters using the power of the Ring of Wind, destroying her mask. Sato faints. He wakes up later, finding Nephrites and Haim with him. The Elder arrives, expressing joy at Sato's recovery and acknowledging the display of the ring's powers. An elven woman, identified as Sumeragdi, thanks Sato for saving Lamka from the Abyss King's army. Sato learns that Sumeragdi is the elder sister of the late Queen of Lamka, who once left the country after losing her lover to the ring. Curious about her return, Sato discovers that the Elder reveals herself as the one behind the Abyss Knight's mask. She presents a black ring of wind, explaining that it had controlled her mind but is now useless. Sumeragdi reveals that she cursed her ill fate with the ring and the harsh reality, allowing the Abyss King to exploit her impure thoughts. The Abyss King tempted her to free her from suffering, urging her to choose the black ring. Sato is shocked by the extreme influence of the Abyss King. The Elder explains that after the battle with the Ring King, the Abyss King lost its physical form. and its soul got sealed far away in the north at a place called Varna. That's the extent of their knowledge. Alabaster adds that even without a physical form, the Abyss King's minions continue to attack humans relentlessly. With the ability to create black rings for its knights, the threat remains significant. Realizing the urgency, Sato feels the need to collect all the rings quickly. Trying to stand, he realizes he's too weak from using too much power from the rings. The elder points out that using so much of the ring's power would usually be fatal, but his connection with the princesses protected him. She suggests expressing gratitude, and Sato recalls that he's now married to Nephrites. Nephrites, aware of a healing spring in the palace, offers to take Sato there for his recovery. The scene then shifts to Sato, the princess, and the healing spring, where Sato wonders why they're all bathing together. Nephrites acknowledges that she knows about Sato and expresses her desire for guidance from Haim, as Haim became Sato's wife first. Haim, in turn, proudly declares her love for Sato, boasting about the numerous times they've kissed and implying they engage in nightly couple activities. The elder arrives and requests a demonstration of how they've nurtured their love. She shares that, despite her own experiences with humans from this world, the techniques might differ. Viewing it as a perfect opportunity to observe, Haim agrees to showcase their relationship. However, Sato intervenes, not allowing the atmosphere of the place to influence them. The scene shifts to Sumeragi asking the Great Sage about the human she met 50 years ago and whether he was killed. The Great Sage reveals a pendant, a gift from that human. He explains that he's known the human for ages, and the human, wishing for Sumeraga's happiness, now lives peacefully in a distant land. He expresses gladness in conveying these thoughts to her and hands her the pendant. Subsequently, Nephrites bids farewell to her parents at their graves, reassuring them that she's okay now, having found a purpose. Jade approaches and inquires if she's leaving, to which Nephrites confirms. Jade notices that Nephrites has become stronger, and Nephrites decides to join Sato and the others. Sato questions her choice, and she assures him that as a ring princess, it's her duty to assist the Ring King. She also expresses her desire to explore the outside world, as Sato had promised to take her to his world someday. Curious, Haim asks when Sato made such a promise, and the group continues on their journey. The scene shifts to Sumeragdi asking Peridot about the potential happiness of the Ring Princess. It's revealed that Peridot is one of the earliest Ring Princesses. She mentions that all the Ring Princesses she has met so far have never had a happy ending, including the first princess. The new Ring King shows a bit of bashfulness, and this aspect of his personality might lead to positive changes. Sumeragdi overhears people talking about the Ring King's group and discovers that the Great Sage is named Alabaster. Recognizing the name as that of her lover, she learns that Alabaster was the human she had once fallen in love with. Meanwhile, Alabaster joined them and asked them to hurry or they will have to sleep under the star. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for more anime recaps.